So what do you put in your data room when preparing for a fundraise, be that equity or debt? I got a mental blank there for a second. So hi, my name's Alysha Randall. I am a portfolio CFO for startup and fast growth businesses, and I also train new or aspiring finance directors. So today I'm looking at data rooms and what you want to include in your data room. So if you haven't done a fundraise before, essentially a data room is a collection of documentations in generally a Google Drive, and the potential investors or lenders will have access to this data room and basically base their decision on whether to fund you or not off the back of that. So generally, I find that preparing a data room way in advance of going to market for a fundraise or a loan is a good idea. And largely because you want it to be as organized as possible and have the complete documentation that you need before you go to market. And the reason for that is if you're doing it as you go to market, you may find that people start going through the data room and they'll be saying things like, oh, where is your office lease documentation? And it takes you 2 weeks to find it. Or where are your 2021 management accounts? And again, it's a different it looks different to what it does in 2022 or 2023, and so you have to rework it a bit before you can upload it, and that again takes you 2 weeks. So it makes you look unorganized if you disorganize if you do it at the same time. So it's a good idea to do it early. But then what do you include in this data room? So generally, I would encourage founders to have 2 data rooms, one that's very light touch and it basically has a few initial documentation, and then the full comprehensive data room. And the reason for that is, especially if you're going to, not particularly lenders, but if you're going to raise equity, the founder will be meeting many different people, be that private equity or venture capitalists or angels or private investors, and a lot of them aren't overly excited about your company and are probably not going to invest. Obviously, most of them that they meet are not going to invest. There's only going to be a few. So there is an issue of a lot of time wasters because fundraising takes a hell of a lot of time. So if you're spending loads and loads of time with somebody that's not overly that interested on all of this documentation you've put together, it can be a real time waster. So obviously that's a tactic that you can discuss with the founder, but generally that's what I encourage people to do, so that you kind of put everyone to that first data room where they get a snippet, generally the annual accounts and the pitch deck, and then if they really want everything, then you put them through to the second data room. So what do you include? So the first one is obviously financial statements. So whether that be a few years, probably 2 to 3 years worth of the financial statements that have been submitted to, whether that's Companies House or the IRS or ASIC. So you want to provide the full accounts. I know that with smaller companies, you can have a summarized version that is public, but ideally you want the full set of accounts, and tax returns usually as well as any R&D returns. On top of that, you want the latest management accounts. So you want to have, because obviously it's usually not year end at the perfect time. So as far as the fundraiser is concerned, so you want management accounts as well as the financial statements. And this should also include, it should be consolidated. If you have more than one company, it should be very easy to read. And obviously it should include P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow. The next one is the forecasted business plan. So basically your forecast model, generally 5 years, it can go up to 10, but it should include all of the company's goals, all of the strategies, the predictions for the future. It should include your 3 financial statements again. So that should be P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, but it should also include KPIs. So what are the main drivers for the company? Also CAC and LTV, which are the main things. So it's looking at the customer base and the marketing funnel. So that is what is very interesting to venture capitalists, particularly at early stage, Series A, Series B. Any partnerships and any other relevant metrics that are useful if they haven't already been included in the pitch or commercial deck. So number 3 is the deck, the pitch or the commercial deck. So this is what the founders will be taking everyone through. This is, the selling documentation, essentially. It's a visual presentation of the company, what problem they're trying to solve, how big the market is that they're planning, that you're in. So that again is very interesting because it can show how big the company can get. And it's information about the company's products, their services, what the competition is like, and also bits about the management team. Next one is the cap table. So this is when you start. The next ones are probably more around things that you would include in that bigger data room, sorry. So the next one would be cap table. So showing the equity, who owns the company, how many shares are there at the moment, names of all the shareholders and how much they own. So this should also include options and warrants if there's anything outstanding there. The next one is number 5 would be market research. So this is anything that supports your business plan. So what a customer wanting, what is your PMF, all of those sort of things. That's really important. Number 6 is your legal and compliance documents. So this is where I was saying any contracts, commercial contracts. Also should look at stock option plans as well. Any agreements with customers or partners, rental agreements, customer T's and C's, all of that good stuff. Intellectual property, if that's something that your company has to deal with. So if you have an IP strategy, if you have any licenses, and of course domain names. Then next is the executive team bio. So one thing the company that venture capitalists are really investing in is not only the company and the project and how big the market is, but the other thing they're really interested in is the executive team. So they have to really believe the leaders of the business and ensure that they're going to implement the strategies, essentially. So this is much more important than what a lot of people think. And actually, I've seen situations where particularly a repeat entrepreneur who's been successful in the past, they will be pre-revenue, pre-product, and venture capitalists are just investing in the leader, and that's it. So make sure that you really have that sorted. Bank statements just to prove the cash on the balance sheet, and then finally employee information. So with this one, you might need to be careful with your country's data protection policy. So you need to make sure that you're not just giving away loads of information, but generally if you provide a list of titles, start dates, and salaries, that should be enough. So that's everything that I would generally include in a data room. So as you can see, it's quite a lot of stuff. It's quite comprehensive, and there's a lot of things that need to be included. So you just need to make sure that you've got all of those things at the ready so that when an investor comes in, it's all good to go. Also for a lender as well, it's also very important that they also get that visibility. So hopefully you find that useful, and good luck with your next fundraise. Cheers.